Hello my friends, and welcome to the second in my series of extremely fun and powerful DLC builds. You loved the first one, you wanted more, so I have delivered. Today we are going to be checking out the chicken leg. Okay, so it's called the Blood Fiend's arm, but it's already being affectionately referred to by the community as the chicken leg, and I'm all for it. With this weapon, you are able to bleed almost every single bleedable enemy in the game with a single charged heavy attack, dealing literally thousands of damage in one hit. And using this method, I was able to easily solo the likes of the Putrescent Knight, the Golden Hippo, Rugalia the Great Bear, and even deal just shy of 14,000 damage in one hit to this stone golem. So, without further ado, let's take a look at how you can replicate the bloody chicken leg build. As always, we'll start by talking about the actual weapon itself, most importantly, where you can get it. I acquired mine from the group of Blood Fiends at Prospect Town, and I have been told that this is a guaranteed drop the first time you kill this group. I'm not 100% sure if this is the case, but if it doesn't drop for you first time, this is a pretty decent place to farm it. You just obviously want to kill the Blood Fiends using the arm as the weapon, not the spears or the forks. If it turns out it isn't a guaranteed drop, or if you would like to farm for a second one, there is another farming spot location. Once you get to Lower Ra, from the Ancient Ruins base, just head northwest. And following the line that I am tracing here, you will be directly east of the Viaduct Minor Tower Grace site, but obviously bearing in mind that is in Upper Ra, you will be below this. So as you see right here, there is a big group of Blood Fiends, a few of which, including the giant one, are using this as their weapon of choice. So being careful not to get absolutely stomped by the giant one. Therefore, if you weren't able to get this from Prospect Town, hopefully if you take out these guys, one of these will drop it for you instead. Now that you know where to get the weapon, why is it so powerful and how can you replicate this yourself? Well, firstly, with high arcane and the blood affinity, this will have in the range of 220 to 240 bleed buildup, which I believe is more than twice as much as we have ever seen before, at least fully unbuffed. Then add on top of this the fact that the heavy attack has a special bonus effect. When you slam down the chicken leg, there will also be a splash of blood, meaning that it will not only deal extra damage, but it will also hit and apply bleed twice. Meaning that with your 240 bleed build-up times 2, you will bleed almost every single enemy instantaneously. And as you see, I am pairing with this the Royal Knight's Resolve Ash of War, meaning that if I apply this just before a heavy charged attack, I am dealing thousands of damage. And if you combine this with a few other elements of the build that I shall talk about shortly, you will also be staggering enemies in 1 to 2 hits, leaving you ample amounts of time to keep stacking that bleed completely uncontested and just melt the health bar of every single boss in the DLC. Now, before we move on to the other elements of this build, I should also talk about enemies who can't bleed. For this, you want to switch the affinity to Occult. With the Occult affinity and high arcane, your actual attack power will be significantly higher than with the blood affinity, and your heavy attacks will still deal bleed buildup. It's just your normal attacks won't deal bleed inherently. But if we're talking about enemies who can't bleed, this doesn't matter. So specifically for areas full of enemies who can't bleed, such as stone enemies or skeletons, switch to the Occult affinity. You will still get that crazy stagger, and you will be dealing much more damage. Now let's talk about the stats that you need to actually be able to make this work efficiently. Firstly, as I recommend with every single DLC build, you want 60 vigor. No more and no less. Exactly as you see here, when I bump my vigor down just 3 points to 57, I lose 50 HP. However, if I increase my vigor 3 points... Oh wait, look at that. Someone in the Knights group has just defeated a Shard Bearer. Congratulations, my friend. And if you are not already in the Knights password group, now is the perfect time to do so. Join us in jolly cooperation and let's defeat Shadow of the Erdtree together. Anyway, as I was saying, if you bump vigor up 3 points to 63, you see I only gain 18 health. 60 is the absolute sweet spot, and you definitely do not want any less for the DLC. Only start to pump your vigor any higher if you really are just pissing points away and you have absolutely nothing else to spend them on. Next up, if you are a PvPer or if you simply don't want to be too over-leveled, the stats I'm showing you currently are actually for an R level 150 build. So ideally, I would put my mind to 20, my endurance to 30, and my strength to 30, because I hate them really awkward numbers. But if you are going rune level 150, then this is the build you want. Mind at 18, endurance at 29, strength at 28 so that you can one-hand the weapon, and then you need at least 11 dexterity to be able to use the chicken leg. Bearing in mind, obviously, if you've gone with a different starter class to me, you might be able to min-max this even more efficiently than I have here, because you don't need any intelligence and you only need 11 dex. And apart from that, faith as low as it will go, and just pump your arcane as high as it will go with any remaining points. That's roughly what you will look like for rune level 150. However, if you would like to start going higher, obviously you can start by rounding off mind and endurance. Then I would recommend bumping faith to 15 or 20 so you can use a couple of buffs. Next up, get your arcane to somewhere between 70 to 80. And then you can start pumping loads and loads of points into strength so that you do more raw physical damage for them enemies that cannot bleed. And as you can see, if we now look back at our menu again, we have got 800 attack power and 223 blood loss buildup. Next up, let's talk about what talismans you should use. As we take a look at the talismans, there is one absolutely crucial one that you will definitely want, and that is the Lord of Blood's Exaltation. This will raise your attack power by 20% for 20 seconds whenever blood loss occurs in the vicinity, which will be constant. And this one drops from Esgar, the Priest of Blood in Lanedale Catacombs. Next up, we have got the Axe Talisman to enhance your charge attacks. Charge attacks is the best way to stagger enemies, specifically charged heavy attacks, because that extra blood splash is absolutely insane on this weapon. So make sure you grab the Axe Talisman from the cellar underneath the Mistwood Ruins in Limgrave, and this will increase all charged attack damage by 10%. Then you want to be very tanky with lots of defense and lots of poise so that your charged heavy attacks don't get interrupted by enemies' attacks. Ideally, you just want to eat through their attacks and keep spamming charged heavies until they stagger. So for this, the 3 talismans I recommend, juggle them around as you see fit depending on your equip load and your poise, would be the Erdtree's Favor +2, the Great Jar's Arsenal, and the Bullgoat Talisman. The Great Jar's Arsenal you obviously get at the end of the Great Jar questline when you defeat all 3 champions of the jar. The Erdtree Talisman +2 in Lanedale Ashen Capital in the area with 3 ulcerated tree spirits, and the Bullgoat Talisman is in the Dragon Barrow section of Caelid. Next up, for the 2 tiers you want in your mixed physic, we have got the tried and tested Stone Barb Cracked tier. I absolutely love this, and I use it in almost every single one of my builds because it makes your attacks more likely to break enemies' stances, and the more frequently enemies are staggered, the less frequently they are hitting you in the face. And then, of course, we want the Spiked Cracked tier to even further increase the power of charged attacks, making our charged heavies some of the most powerful attacks you have ever seen in Elden Ring. In this section, I will also just very quickly touch on spells. Unless you have the levels to pump a few stats into Faith, then you won't really be using any spells, nor will you need them. However, if you do decide to, the 3 I would always recommend: Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength, just for the extra bit of attack, because it's a really great situational utility spell to get rid of poison and rot. Nothing more to be said on spells. This build does not use, nor does it need them. The next thing I want to talk about is the armor. There is actually something very specific and unique we will be doing with our armor set, and I am wearing 4 different pieces from 4 different sets, and here is why. First and foremost, we have got the Mask of Confidence, increasing your arcane by 3, meaning you are going to bleed enemies slightly more often. There is a few other arcane increasing helms, in fact more than a few, there's probably around a dozen at this point. However, most of them give you some kind of debuff. The Mask of Confidence is fantastic because it offers you a bit of resistance and absolutely no negative to offset the boosts to your arcane. Next up, your chest and your legs will just be the heaviest pieces you can wear, without obviously going into a heavy equip load. So I have got the brand new Armour of Solitude and Lionel's Greaves. And finally, for your arms, we're going to do something very specific that you should already know about if you have watched my hidden armor mechanics video. We are going to be using the Briar Gauntlets, because you only need to equip one piece of the Briar set to receive this bonus. This armor will cause you to deal damage when performing dodge rolls. Now, as we're doing thousands and thousands and thousands of damage, is an extra 8 damage here and there really going to make all that much difference? No, of course it's not, but there's a more specific reason we are using this. If you didn't know, there is an invisible bar behind the scenes that monitors how close an enemy is to staggering. There are even mods that you can download that will physically show you this bar if you're interested. And how this works as a rule is really big, heavy enemies that take a long time to be staggered. Obviously they have a huge stagger bar, but in between attacks, this stagger bar doesn't really tend to decrease all that much. It takes a long time before this bar will start to decrease, and it will decrease very, very slowly. However, quicker, smaller enemies who do have a small stagger bar and can be staggered very quickly, their bar will start to rapidly deplete only a few seconds after they have stopped taking damage. And this, my friends, is where the Briar Gauntlets come in. As you are rolling around enemies, dodging their attacks, you are usually rolling into them, whether you mean it or not, and you are dealing tiny amounts of chip damage, thus keeping their stagger bar topped up. It will not deplete, and the next time you attack them, you are far more likely to stagger them. This one change to all of your builds can make a huge difference, especially on small enemies with small but fast depleting stagger bars. This, combined with all of the other stagger mechanics we have talked about so far in this video, will mean that you are guaranteed to stagger almost every single enemy in the game with just 2 attacks, because you will never give them a chance to recover thanks to the use of the Briar Gauntlets. And finally, my friends, I always leave a few minutes at the end of the video to give you a final thoughts, any extra combat tips for the build. But genuinely, this is such a simple, straightforward one. I feel like I've done a really good job of covering everything for you already, which is basically equip the things I've told you to equip and spam charged heavy attacks. It really is that simple, my friends. So if you do have any questions, or if you feel there's anything I haven't covered, please let me know in the comments. Also, please let me know what your builds are in the comments. Really interested what everyone else is running for the DLC and what you are making of the new weapons. And with that, my friends, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.